Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. Today is November 30th, 2022, Wednesday, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
What's up out there, y'all? It's Ben Dickerson. I am your co-host. Kind of bounced back with my wins and losses. Like when that happens, I got 10-6 last week. Still not as good as I'd like to be. Still nowhere near that 1 week when I only had 3 losses. But what the heck? We still got a few weeks to go before the playoffs.
Yeah, there were some surprising wins, and some of them came real like the close shave type win. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that. But let's kick this off with the numbers, with the Sterling Net Point Power rankings. And Benny, this group here is the bottom approximate third, 21 through 32. For the most part, except for a few exceptions, I'm not taking a lot of these guys seriously. Well, it depends. There's a few exceptions. I'm coming up with a concept. I'm going to throw it out, and we can talk about it at another time. But I was looking at some of these teams with, like, let's say, the Seahawks. High in the scoring range, low in the defense range. Seahawks are 28th defensively, giving up 25.5 points per game. But you'll see that they're in the top. But their net points is a small number. As you can see, even as you look, most of these net point differential is 2 or 3, 4. The highest is with the Houston Texans at minus 7.8. And again, net points and average turnover differential are the stats that can go both positive and negative. So when I was looking, I was saying it was such a small differential, but where their ranking is so far apart. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe I need to look at something like a ranking differential, and to see how that might play into our discussions on this. So if you take, for example, like I said, the Seattle Seahawks, if they're, let's say, 10th, I'm just going to throw that out, in scoring. And what are they here? We said they were 28th.
28th.
That'd be a differential of 18. You know what I mean? When your offense and your defense are that far apart in their results, I think that kind of says something. And then we have those other guys that are like we talked about, they're in the top 10 or 20 at least in just about every category. So their differential is a lot smaller. So let's keep an eye out for that. Not all of these teams have great differentials. You see Green Bay Packers coming in at 23rd in scoring and 22nd in defense. Small differential. What's that? 23.6 in defense and 19. What's that? 4? You know what I mean?
Right.
So not a big differential between their offense and their defense for Green Bay. All of these slides will be at Sterling Net Point Power Ranking Facebook page and at my blog at sterlingnppr.com. So we're going to skip through this. Ben, what do you see that grabs your attention in this bottom group here?
Well, first of all, let me just say, in reference to what you were just talking about, as far as the differential between what teams are scoring and how many points they're giving up, I find that interesting, but I would only find it interesting for certain teams. And those certain teams would have to be teams that are at least in the top 15 to 20 in average net points. Because if they're, for example, like you use the Green Bay Packers, the differential is small between what they score and what they give up, but they're in the bottom third in both. I find no interest in that whatsoever. I'm sorry. Whereas a team like Kansas City, I find a huge interest in that because they're in the top 10, I believe, in average net points. Yet the differential between what they score and what they give up is pretty large. That's interesting. Now, as far as this group is concerned, I'll tell you right now, last week I said it's going to be, I'm not exactly sure what the words were that I used in reference to the teams that are ranked in average net points between 21 and 32. But in reference to the playoffs, I said these teams have little to no chance of making the playoffs. At this point, I see only one team that I believe still has a chance to make it to the playoffs, and that would be the LA Chargers.
Are you looking just at average net points?
As I look at average net points, that is correct.
Okay, all right. So you're not looking across at the defense or the offense or anything.
Not as far as who I think is going to make it into the playoffs or not. No.
Playoffs. Okay, all right. Well, that's interesting because some of the teams that I see in those other categories are not in this bottom group in terms of net points. Let's go to the next page. Let's see here. All right, this is that middle group you were talking about. Net points running from 11 to 20, Jacksonville, Seattle, Minnesota, Tennessee, Washington, Tampa Bay, the Giants, the Vegas Raiders, Atlanta Falcons, and the Cleveland Browns, ranging from plus 1.1 down to minus 2.1. So that's a small differential of like 1 in terms of net points, but in terms of ranking, you're going from 11 to 20, so that's a differential of 9. So they're nine places down, and they're on the negative side of things. So that's those teams for net points. On points for, you're in that 23 to 20 point per game range, 23.9 to 20.9. You got Cleveland, Minnesota, the Chargers, Atlanta. My Niners right in the middle at 15, 22.6 points per game. Jacksonville, Arizona, New England, Chicago, and the Jets. The only team I had any family that played for. Indianapolis is in 11th place defensively. You have Baltimore. Hey, they're 0.3 points better than Baltimore in terms of giving up points. Cincinnati, 21. Jacksonville, the Giants. Your Giants, Kansas, the 21.1. Now, this is what you might be talking about with Kansas City coming in at 16th place, giving up 22.1 points per game. All right. You don't even see them yet over in the net point range.
Right. And that's a big improvement. They were lower than that. They were in the bottom third for the early part of the season in points against.
Ben talks about Kansas City defense like I talk about Kirk Cousins, so that's a big statement coming from you to recognize
absolutely
that they've improved.
They have improved.
Okay. That Miami group is down there at 19th, tied with New Orleans at 23.3. So they're giving up 23.3 points per game on average. Over in that last column there, we have average turnover differential, again, going from positive to negative. They're basically all positives here, and we have some zeros. So from 11, we have Tennessee at 0.2, tied with actually Tampa Bay. Then you got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way tie at 0.1, plus 0.1 average turnover differential. That's San Fran, the Patriots, Buffalo, and Cincinnati, all contenders. Arizona, Washington. Arizona has 0.1 also. Washington, Detroit, and Chicago breaking even at 0. So that's your 11 through 20 group in terms of your net points, points for, points against, and turnover differential. Ben.
Yes.
I was watching Skip and Shannon. What's the show that they're on?
Undisputed.
And Skip said the turnover ratio stat is the telltale stat of all.
Oh, really? That's what Skip said?
Skip on Undisputed. When he said that, I was like,
he was talking about the NFL in general?
Huh?
He was talking about the NFL in general?
I forget what they were talking about, but turnovers were the subject, and that's what he said about them. The turnover ratio stat is the telltale stat of all. Skip on Undisputed.
An argument could be made for that, yes.
Especially when you add in the Pythagorean calculation to the whole scenario, where you make that conversion from turnovers to points. And I actually took a look, and we'll talk about this in the next section, where you had a couple games where that Pythagorean calculation actually swung the bias from one team to the other. So some interesting things happening there. But for right now, 11 through 20, any further discussion on this group?
Just that this is the group, and I mentioned from 1 through 15, but 1 through 20, there's still some possibilities in this group of teams dropping and teams going up into the top. Again, remind everybody, 14 teams make the playoffs. So if you're anywhere near 14th, you have an opportunity. You have a mathematical chance at this point. So when you're looking at teams like Washington and the Giants, and even teams like Vegas, who, although they won this last weekend, had not been playing well, still have a chance. That's important.
Yep, still in the hunt, as they say. Still in the hunt. All right. Next up, 1 through 10. I've been watching so much Baby First stuff. I have all these little counting songs in my head now, you know. We can count to 10. That's one of the songs. We can count to 10. Look who's number 1, Buffalo, at an even average net point of plus 10. Dallas, after that beat down on Minnesota, increased their differential substantially, taking second place at 8.4. That's plus 8.4 points per game. Philadelphia, who had been in second place, comes to 7.9 points per game. So they fallen a little bit. Kansas City, we talked about them. That defense where was that defense at, Benny?
Oh, I can't remember the number now. They were in the second.
It was kind of back there a little bit.
They were in the second, third. 20 something.
Yeah, they're plus 7.5 points per game. Rounding out fifth place, my San Francisco 49ers, averaging plus 6.9 points per game. Go Jimmy G. Cincinnati 4.9, Baltimore 4.4, New England 3.4, the Jets 3.1, and Miami 2.4. This is all positive numbers, so your range from 10 down to 2.4 rounds out your average net points for the NFL. They're on average points for first place. You have Kansas City, followed by Buffalo and Philly. Seattle, we talked about Seattle, how high they were offensively. Cincinnati 25.9, Miami 25.6, Dallas 25.4, Detroit 25, tied with Baltimore at 25 even, and Vegas 24.1 points per game. So that gets you into the door, 24.1 points per game in terms of the top 10 in scoring. And points against, number 1, San Francisco 49ers, giving up 15.7 points per game. And, you know, we kind of organize all this differential information, but it's amazing how they pull out these little stats, you know, and isolate them in so many of these shows that I see the differential beside it, differential. But this is where you want to go when you want to just get the bigger picture as to where everybody stands. Dallas is in second place at 17, so Denver and the Jets are both tied for 17.6, or is that? No, 17.8 for Denver, 17.8. My eyesight is not that good. That's fourth place. And fifth place, Buffalo, starting at 18 point allowed per game, ranging from 18-1 to 18-6. You have Buffalo, New England, Tampa Bay, and Tennessee. This Tennessee Eagle game that's coming up, we're going to talk about this, but this is starting to intrigue me. Look who's right behind them at 19.6 points per game allowed. And then in Washington, they're trying to play spoiler at 19.7, coming in 10th. So there's your top 10 in terms of scoring defense. San Fran, Dallas, Denver, the Jets, Buffalo, New England, Tampa Bay, Tennessee, Philly, and Washington. And as far as turnover differential is concerned, Philly is in first place, plus 1.2 average turnovers per game. Baltimore is second at 0.7. Minnesota and Dallas tied at 0.5. So that's about a half a point on the plus side for these teams. Seattle 0.4. Then we have a 2-way tie between the Chargers and the Giants at 0.3, and a 3-way tie between Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and the Jets at 0.2. So those are your top 10 in average turnover differential. And then let me mess your head up a little bit.
Okay.
Look across all the categories, the first place. Does that look like potential AFC, NFC championship games to you?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. Absolutely. Nobody can argue. I mean, I'm sure there's people that root for certain teams that think that they're particular. Like there's some people, Cowboys fans are going to say, nah, it won't be the Niners, it'll be us, or whatever. But yeah, that could very easily.
I'm like, holy mackerel,
Conference game matchups right there, very easily.
All right, what you got for this group?
I got two things. First of all, since you looked ahead to the Giants, to the Tennessee Eagles game, which doesn't come for another, week or two?
That's this week, right?
The Eagles play Titans this week? Oh, it is this week. Well, I just wanted to let you know, when we do the Bias Plus reports, I'm going to give you an interesting statistic about the Tennessee Titans defense, since that's where you brought it up when we were doing average points against.
An interesting, no, I can't say it. You messed it up so bad.
I know. I had to pause. An interesting statistic.
Okay.
In reference to the Tennessee defense, which, I mean, it's interesting. It's lots of people probably know it. Some people may not think about it. So it's not any astronomical discovery or anything, but it's an interesting statistic when you think about that upcoming game and the fact that they're so close in average points against. The other thing I was going to say is, when we go back to average net points and we look at our top 10, you will notice that every division in football is represented in that top 10, except 2. And those 2 are not so arguably probably the worst divisions in football as we speak. They would be the AFC South and, strange as it might sound, folks, Tampa Bay fans, the NFC South. Neither of those 2 teams are represented.
Those divisions.
Those 2 divisions, right.
Wow.
Which tells you how things have got to change when we talk about the playoff. Somebody's got to win those 2 divisions. And they will be 2 of the 14 teams that make it into the playoffs. And neither of those teams, whoever they turn out to be, are in our top 10.
Now, are they in any of the other categories? Let's see.
I believe so.
Tampa Bay is in defense. They're 18.5.
Yes.
Okay.
So I'd say on that alone, they're the front runner to win the NFC South.
On that alone.
On that alone. AFC South, guess who we're looking at? Jacksonville. Right? Crazy? It's crazy.
Jacksonville. We talk about those wins when we get to the matchup part of the show, man. That was crazy.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
All right, I'm all juiced about getting to the matchup part of the show. You ready to move on?
I'm ready.
All right. And again, the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us at my blog, sterlingnppr.com. And on Instagram. Yeah, that's the ticket. We're on Instagram also. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Ready for Thursday night football?
Thursday night football. Wow. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready.
Well, you got the Bills at the Patriots. They're going to go into New England. The bias plus score 10 favors the Bills. Well, we just saw the net point power rankings, and we saw where the Bills were ranked at 1 and where the Patriots were ranked. You add the plus in, which has to do with turnover differential, and bam, that's how we come up with these numbers. In any event, let's look at the Bills here being able to beat Mac. What do you call him? Mac and cheese? You still calling
Mac
him
and
that?
cheese.
Mac
Yeah, I'm
cheese?
calling him mac and cheese because he didn't improve like everybody thought he was going to.
I don't know. They were talking nice about him on TV today, yesterday. So I don't know. Let's see. Again, not spectacular, but fundamental. That's how the Patriots are getting it done.
Yeah, but yeah, and it's a division matchup, AFC East. The Bills didn't play great last week, but they really didn't have to against the Lions. Lions played really hard and they kept it close, but they made a couple of crippling mistakes. The Bills' running game showed some more improvement. They're getting better and better. Remember, we were saying that if there was going to be a deficiency on the Bills, it was their run game, but they are getting a little bit better. They're paying a little bit more attention to it. And the offensive line is showing that they can, in fact, run block. And Josh Allen threw the ball for 253 yards and 2 touchdowns. He ran for 78 yards. He's still dominant on the ground. And he ran for another score also. But he also threw his 6th red zone interception of the year. This is troubling. This is definitely trouble. And as soon as he threw it, I was like, no. He's got to get out of that. I don't want that to rear its ugly head in the playoffs and ruin things for the Bills. In the end, they had to complete a late drive to win the game with a Tyler Boyd field goal, 45-yarder, with 2 seconds left on the clock to beat the Lions. So people might say, wow, they had to go through all that to beat the Lions. But if you watch the game, I had to watch the replay of it because I was watching Red Zone so much. But in fact, you never really got the feeling that the Bills were in any danger, even though the score was kind of close. You know what I mean? But the mistakes that the Lions did could have possibly cost them a big upset. Now, as far as New England is concerned, they lost a tough road game in Minnesota, and that Minnesota high-flying offense, which people are calling their offense and calling Kirk Cousins fire and ice. The Patriots defense, which has been a top-notch unit for most of the season, played well, considering they shut down Dalvin Cook and the Vikings running game, but they had no answer for Kirk Cousins. Kirk went off on him. So I got to go with the Bills on this one. I don't think the Patriots, as good as their defense has been playing, will be able to slow down Josh, and their offense surely cannot keep up with them in the scoring department.
Okay, all right. I can see what you're saying there. All right, then. Next up, Broncos at Ravens, bias plus score 7 favors the Ravens.
Ravens got the bias. Okay, cool. Just making a little note for me. I am officially not going to pick the Broncos to win another game this season. I picked them last week, and they embarrassed themselves and me, and nobody was even around for me to be embarrassed of. It was ridiculous. I forget about the Broncos, man. I'm done with them. Lamar Jackson was able to put the Ravens up 27-20 against the Jaguars last week with 2:02 left in the game. But their normally stout defense wasn't able to stop young Mr. Trevor Lawrence and those Jaguars. They were able to roll down the field and score and take the lead. The Ravens did have enough time to attempt to come back, but they needed a 67-yard field goal by Justin Tucker, who damn near made it. That bad boy was going right down the middle, but it fell about 2 yards short. Unbelievable. I don't know what the heck happened to the Baltimore defense, but the Jags are young, but they got a good coaching staff, and normally they would lose games like that, but they were able to pull out the win. So I don't know what to say about Baltimore, except for the fact that there's no way. Of course, I say no way, watch it happen. But there's no way the Broncos beat Baltimore next week. There's no way they go into Baltimore and win that game.
Going with Baltimore.
Yes.
Packers at Bears. You ready for this, Benny? Bias plus score 1.1 favors the Bears.
Let me find that one.
You gotta remember, the Packers just lost again to the Eagles. They didn't have points.
Yeah.
Stinking. They stink worse than the Bears. At least the Bears is doing some scoring.
Well, the Bears had been doing some scoring, but without Justin Fields, I don't know. I'll tell you this. Excuse me. Aaron Rodgers only completed 11 of 16 passes before he went out injured. He did throw 2 touchdown passes, though, in that short period of time. He left the game in the third quarter. Well, I shouldn't say that short period of time, because he did make it to the third quarter before he had to go out with a rib injury. But he was able to throw 2 touchdowns before that happened. Unfortunately, he also threw 2 interceptions. He's still playing with a broken thumb. Now he's most likely being fitted for a flak jacket. He's been on TV this week saying that he's much improved and he plans to play. And of course, the coach is saying we plan to stick him out there. So we'll have to see what happens on that. But the improving Bears offense came crashing back down to earth with Trevor Siemian at quarterback. What a mess. Justin Fields can't play. They named Trevor Siemian. He goes out there and gets an oblique strain in warm-ups before the game. Then they say they're going to go to Jason Peterman. Are you kidding me? But somehow Siemian fought through his oblique injury and ended up starting and playing the entire game. The Bears defense is just a shell of themselves since they made the wholesale trades of all their best players. So I think that the Packers will go into Chicago and limp their way to a victory. Unless Justin Fields can play. I got to pick somebody, and it's only Wednesday. So I'm going to pick the Packers. If somehow Justin Fields plays, there's a good chance that the Bears can beat the Packers. But if he doesn't play, they have no chance.
Okie dokie.
So I'll stick with my pick.
And Ben, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, this is one of those games where turnover differential favored the Bears, but net points favored the Packers. If I'm not mistaken. But that when you calculate with the Pythagorean calculation, it wound up being the Bears by the skin of their chinny chin chin. All right, say it with me, Benny. The Commanders. You'll have plenty of time to say it because they're at your Giants. The New York Football Giants. Bias plus score 0.9.
Ooh.
Favors your Giants.
Wow. Giants get the bias. It's a very small bias, but they do get it. Anyway, Washington has now won 6 of their last 7 games and are looking really scary. And they look pretty good doing it at home against Atlanta. Excuse me. It was a rainy day. It was a lot of rain. Ball was wet. Field was a little sloppy. Both of these teams, Atlanta and Washington, both lean on their running games. But the Commanders were simply just more dominant with their running game. Rookie running back Brian Robinson Jr. led the way, 18 carries, 105 yards. They just looked much better. He also caught one of Heineke's 2 touchdown passes. The The lately very stout defense, also by Washington, kept the Falcons' running game under control, and Kendall Fuller picked off Mariota in the red zone with about 58 seconds left in the game. That pretty much shut down Atlanta, got the win for the Commanders. Now, even though the Giants defense intercepted Dak Prescott twice last week against Dallas, or in Dallas, they weren't able to sack him, and the offense had all kinds of trouble moving the ball. Daniel Jones threw one touchdown pass, and Saquon had one touchdown on the ground, but they had 4 3-and-outs, and Dallas only had one. So that tells you about time of possession and ball control right there. The Giants are going to have to do better. I believe they had 3 starters on the offensive line out with injury. And, of course, they have all those injuries on defense, too. It's going to be tough sledding for the Giants. But they are at home. They are at home. And everything I said about the Commanders playing better on defense and the Giants missing offensive linemen and not being able to move the ball well through the air tells you that the Commanders should win this game. But I can't pick against my Giants when they play the Commanders. I just can't do it. So this one's with the heart and not with the head. I'm taking the Giants.
Going with the bias, going with the Giants.
Yeah, maybe the bias will prove me right this time.
Jaguars at Lions. Bias will score 5.1 favors the Jaguars. Again, Jaguars had a few good wins, strong wins by large margins, and everything that the Lions do, usually it's losing, but by a very small margin with a lot of scoring going on.
Yeah, but, both these teams have shot themselves in the foot quite a few times. The young Jaguars were able to eke out a big-time win against the Ravens last week in a game that I don't think anybody picked them to win. And it was thanks to some really clutch play by Trevor Lawrence. After the Ravens took a 27-20 lead with 2 minutes and 2 seconds left on the clock and with no timeouts, Trevor Lawrence drove his offense 75 yards, threw a touchdown pass to wide receiver Marvin Jones, and then completed the go-ahead and winning 2-point conversion to Zay Jones. Masterful job by Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars offense. Now for the Lions. 2 third-quarter mistakes ended up being killers for Detroit in their hard-fought game against the Bills. We talk about shooting themselves in the foot. The kicker, Michael Badgley, missed a chip shot 29-yard field goal in the third quarter. And also during the third quarter, Jared Goff took a sack for a safety. So that's 3 points that should have went on the board and 2 points that shouldn't have gone on the board for the other team. Okay? Then, with 23 seconds left in the game, Badgley finds himself with another opportunity to help win the game. Excuse me. He converts a 51-yard. This guy missed a 29-yarder, then converts a 51-yard field goal to tie the game at 25. Unfortunately, they left just enough time for Josh Allen to roll down the field and win the game with a Tyler Bass field goal. So again, 2 critical mistakes by Detroit cost them a chance for a big upset victory. That being said, I got to go with the Jaguars. I'm loving the Jaguars right now.
Loving the Jaguars. Loving it. Did you see the Jaguars mascot on TV?
Yeah, he's always under the goalpost acting like a nut.
No, this was even different.
What did he do?
He's running around the field with a Speedo on.
Oh, God.
Making national news. This thing was small, too.
Oh, my goodness.
A mascot in a Speedo.
Mascot in a Speedo. Sheesh.
Well, the Jets are going into Minnesota. And for all the Kirk Cousins love you've shown, Bias Plus score of 1.4 favors the Jets.
Okay.
Strange world.
This would be my candidate for intriguing game of the week. Mike White started the game against the Bears last week in place of the benched Zach Wilson, the benched and disgraced Zach Wilson, and didn't just hold down the fort, but was freaking awesome. He ran the offense almost flawlessly, and he was extremely efficient throwing the ball. We're talking about 22 of 28, 315 yards, 3 TDs. This guy just comes off the bench like what? And no turnovers. The fans were chanting his name, not only at the end of the game, they were chanting his name in the middle of the game while the defense was on the field.
Wow.
Not only do the fans love Mike White, but I'm hearing the teammates really like him too. He's beloved in the locker room. I heard Zach Wilson's name mentioned in the same sentence with Carson Wentz in reference to popularity.
Carson Wentz?
Yes, in regards to popularity in the locker room.
Ooh, that ain't
not a good thing.
That's not good at all.
Not good at all. In week 10 versus a very good Dallas defense, the Vikings offense looked completely overwhelmed. Last week, against a very good Patriots defense, the offense looked spectacular. Again, we're talking fire and ice here for the Vikings offense and for Kirk Cousins. He was fire in this one. The Patriots were able to slow down the Vikings running game, but Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, and TJ Hawkinson seemed to get open at will, and Cousins had no trouble finding any of them, and each one of them scored a touchdown. Take the Vikings.
Justin Jefferson.
Take the Vikings at home. And I'm telling you, I'm looking forward to Justin Jefferson versus Sauce Gardner, bro.
Oh, there you go.
That's now worth the price of admission.
Yeah, now we talking right there, you know.
Right.
And as far as Mike White is concerned, I've heard some things where they're like, oh, he was just playing against the Bears defense. And you just finished talking pretty bad about the Bears defense yourself.
Yes, I did.
But he did what a good quarterback would do to a bad defense.
Right.
You know? So, and from what I understand, he's spreading that ball around, and you had some receivers who were previously somewhat dissatisfied with big smiles across their face all of a sudden.
That is correct.
So, yeah, that's a dynamic that's going to be interesting for my old coach, Coach Saleh, to have to contend with. You're going to go with the Vikings here, which is kind of understandable. Again, fire and ice, and you're hoping that they're fire against the Jets. But the bias.
It's going to be a tough game. Yeah, this is not going to be an easy game.
Okay. All right, there you go. It's going to be a tough one. How about this one, Benny? Browns at Texans. Bias plus score 3.3 favors the Texans, except for the X factor about to calculate into this thing.
I was going to say, how are the Texans getting the bias?
Browns has been kind of not good.
Well, that's true, but so have the Texans.
Well, and again,
that's funny.
I don't know if
you
this is
kind of not good.
This might be one of the ones where the turnover differential maybe favored the Texans also.
Okay.
But long story short, yeah, I was a little surprised. But the Browns just lost the game, right? And the Texans, did they lose their game by less? I think sometimes, and that's the thing, sometimes when I'm doing these things, you see a bias plus score, it's always a positive number, but it could be two teams playing each other who are both in the negative. So that just happens to be the differential. Think along the number line. That's just happened to be the differential on the number line between the two teams. But yep, favors the Texans.
Yeah. The Browns beat the Bucks 23-17 last week. And I know the Texans lost and they got blown out. So again, that's a little weird, but we'll go with the numbers. It was Jacoby Brissett's last start before Deshaun Watson takes over. He's off the suspension. He's been practicing, and he's supposed to start this week. Jacoby Brissett, TD pass, to tight end David Njoku, forced overtime, and Nick Chubb scored on a 3-yard run with 19 seconds left in overtime to beat the Buccaneers. And the defense shut out the Buccaneers on their last 7 possessions. 7 possessions, the Buccaneers did not score a touchdown or a field goal. Not good, but it was good for the Browns. They looked really good on defense, which they haven't done for most of the season. Houston was able to score all 15 of their points in the second half, and they only accumulated 210 total yards in the game. So again, even though they did find the end zone, it was a pretty poor performance. Also, the defense was able to sack Tua Tagovailoa 4 times. But other than that, there's nothing good to say about the Houston's Texans game against Miami. They got blown out 30-15. There's no way I can pick the Texans over the Browns. And I'm hearing reports out of Cleveland that Deshaun Watson's looking excellent in practice. So I'm going to go with the Browns.
Well, you know, your sense of the numbers is pretty good because the Texans are like last in net points.
Right.
7 something. I'm getting ready at minus, what are they, 7.8? And Cleveland is minus 2.1. So I don't know if I got something, but I'm just double checking here on the turnover differential.
Uh-huh.
Where's Houston? Minus 0.4, and Cleveland is minus 0.6. So that's a small amount. That's a 0.2 differential times 4 be 0.8. So yeah, I think your numbers, your sense of it is correct. I'm gonna have to make that correction.
Okay.
That looks like that should favor the Browns there.
Right.
And I just might have put the wrong name in there.
No problem.
So there you go. Going with the Browns?
Yes, sir.
All right, fantastic. Steelers at Falcons. Bias plus score 3.1 favors the Falcons. How you feel about that number?
Well, what was the number again?
3.1.
3.1, huh?
Yeah,
Jeez.
3.1.
Falcons still getting some props.
Well, you know, I mean,
they had some good wins. I got to give it to them. They've had a few good wins.
Atlanta, where are they? Look, they are. Where are they? They're not that far down. In terms of net points, they've had their challenges. Yeah. Okay, I see them. There you go. They have minus 1.8 net points, but the Steelers. Where's Pittsburgh at? Even Christmas. Keep looking all the way at the bottom. Pittsburgh is not all the way at the. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I'm looking at the right place.
Yeah, they are at the bottom.
Minus 6.1. I think you know what I did. I'm looking at instead of I clicked on one of the other categories, so my numbers are not consecutive like they should be, and that's what was throwing me off. All right, so now I see it relative to average net points. We're looking at the Steelers. That's Pittsburgh. 30th, minus 6.1 net points. So that's the challenge there. Atlanta is 19th at minus 1.8.
Okay.
That's right there. You know what's going on with the differential and why the bias goes toward the Falcons.
Okay. Well, the Steelers have to go to Atlanta. Last week, playing the Colts, after Najee Harris went out with an abdominal injury in the first half, backup running back Benny Snell filled in very nicely with 62 yards and scored the go-ahead touchdown on 12 carries. And even though Kenny Pickett didn't throw for any touchdowns, he was efficient with the few passes that he threw, and he had a couple of pretty good runs to add to his team's 172 total yards on the ground. Pretty efficient game by the Steelers, considering they haven't been playing that well lately. The defense was flying around all over the field all day, and the Steelers look like a team that's playing hard for their coach trying to keep his record or get him another winning record, at least try to get close to it. I really don't think they have much else to play for, but they sure are playing hard. I'll give them that. I have to say it's for old Coach Tomlin. Now, although the Falcons' offense is astonishingly balanced, their lack of big-time playmakers is still kind of holding them back and making it difficult for them to find the end zone. And they just lost another playmaker. Drake London, I believe, went down. No, it wasn't Drake London. It was Pitts. Kyle Pitts went down with a season-ending injury. So that's one less big-time playmaker that wasn't really having a big-time season, but a big-time potential playmaker is now out for the season. So now it's pretty much Drake London, the run game, and a couple miscellaneous dudes whose names I can't think of. That being said, I think the Steelers are feeling kind of good about themselves. Kenny Pickett threw the ball pretty well. He wasn't wild and crazy and all over the place. Him and Pickens look like they have a nice little combination going. That's going to be a good passer wide receiver combination going into the future, Pickett and Pickens.
Tandem.
Yeah, it's a good tandem. I'm going to pick the Steelers to go into Atlanta and beat the Falcons. I think they're feeling it right now. I think they're feeling like they don't have a whole lot to lose except for Coach Tomlin and his record, and that they're going to continue to play hard for him.
TJ Watt player?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's playing.
Yeah, TJ Watt's playing.
Yeah, the defense is always better when he's on the field.
Mariota's one of those guys that can be a bit hot and cold.
Right.
Mobile, but, I don't think that he scares anybody, too much with the run.
He's not a good enough passing threat to strike any fear in anybody's heart.
Miles Jack plays with the Steelers now. He's out with the knee. I'm looking at their list of injured.
Oh, I didn't realize Miles Jack was with the Steelers. I know Minkah Fitzpatrick is injured.
Yeah, Minka's hurt also. They got some injuries. Najee, Jalen Warren, Miles Boykin, Larry Ogunjobi. All right. Well, in any event, you're going with the Steelers over the Falcons.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. All right. Interesting game here. Titans at Eagles. Bias plus score 11.5 favors the Eagles. That's easy to believe, right?
Oh, yeah.
What you got on that?
Oh, yeah. Well, Tennessee, here's the interesting stat I was talking about. Tennessee hasn't given up more than 20 points all season long. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Okay.
And they've only given up exactly 20 points twice. Once to the Chiefs earlier in the season and last week against Cincinnati. 20 and 20. So they still haven't given up more than 20. They've only given up less than 20 in every other game. Unfortunately, the Bengals defense was just as tough and physical as the Titans usually are. They held Derrick Henry to 38 yards, and that takes some doing. 38 yards on the ground for Derrick Henry.
And a fumble.
And a fumble. Now, he did get off through the air a little bit. He was far more effective. He had only three catches. They were for 79 yards. The bulk of them came on one catch and long run. And just before he got ready to score, I think he was around a 5 or 6 yard line. The ball got punched out, and Treylon Burks, the wide receiver, jumped on it and got the touchdown. That was a weird play. I don't even think it registered in fantasy. It was crazy. People that had Derrick Henry were pulling their hair out because he got no credit for that run. And I don't
know if anybody got credit. It's like
they didn't give Treylon Burks credit.
Other category or something.
Exactly. It went down as an other. So that means Burks didn't get credit for falling on the ball either. Very frustrating for fantasy. But they had nowhere to put it. They had nobody. It's crazy. Those things rarely happen, but they do happen. That was the Titans' only touchdown, actually. Tough game against the Bengals. That's a real big time rivalry too between those two teams. Now let's talk about the Eagles. I'm still not sure what to make of the Eagles defense. I know we talked to our friend Mark Russell, and he was saying some things about Jonathan Gannon, the defensive coordinator, and some of the weird stuff that he does. They had a game against the Packers. They gave up a lot of points in that game. In fact, 7 touchdowns were scored in the first half of that game. That game was flying by in the first half. Crazy thing, though, is, yeah, the Eagles scored 4 of those 7 touchdowns. The Packers scored the other 3. I said the other 3 like there was a third team playing. Anyway, I still never felt like the Eagles were in any real danger of losing that game because their incredibly dominant run game was in high gear. They got 157 yards from Jalen Hurts and 143 from Miles Sanders. In total, they generated 363 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. Hurts also threw 2 touchdown passes. Their offense is just dominant right now. They're looking crazy good, man. People are going crazy. Eagles fans are going crazy trying to find something wrong with this offense. It's almost too good to be true. They can't believe it, but that's how good they really are. The defense, I don't know. Remains to be seen, but this will be an interesting game. I'd say this is another intriguing game candidate.
I did actually call our friend Mark and to let him know I was listening to 94.1, the sports network.
Right.
And the subject was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles. That was the conversation. And he bangs on him really hard. But they've only got 1 loss. Bias plus score 11.5 favors the Eagles. We know, they're and also Jordan Davis is coming back.
That is true.
So that should help clog up that middle a little bit. Maybe they can control the run a little bit better.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, if Jordan Davis plays a big part in slowing down and or stopping Derrick Henry, they need to take the $1 million they paid Ndamukong Suh and give it to him. Okay, because that's a wasted $1 million. They can send that bum back home.
Jeez.
That's just me, Now, that being said, I think this is a rock'em, sock'em game that's going to have Eagles fans on the edges of their seats. But I believe that the Eagles will squeak this one out at the end.
All right, squeaking it out. I'm very impressed with Jalen Hurts' ability to both run and play from the pocket.
Yes,
it's such a deadly combination, and he's such a good runner. I compared him a little bit to Fields, and in Chicago. I thought they were kind of similar, just strong and fast. But I think Jalen is much better entrenched in that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, the only similarities is the physical makeup.
Physical, that's exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm just saying kudos to Jalen, thinking the game, and doing such a great job there.
Oh, I should also, I would be remiss if I didn't remember to mention that he is now the franchise leader for quarterbacks in rushing, out rushing Cunningham and McNabb and Michael Vick.
Yeah, and when you passed up Michael Vick, you did a little something there, didn't you?
Yeah, and he broke Vick's single game record.
Yeah. All right. You're going with the Eagles next up?
Yes.
49ers East versus 49ers West.
At last. Another intriguing game candidate. Oh man. You got to make some choices this week, bro.
Bias plus score 4.9 favors the 49ers. Oh man, what are they gonna do with Tyreek Hill? Well, you know what they're gonna do with Tyreek Hill? They're gonna do what we do with everybody. We're gonna knock them the heck down until they got stars going around their head.
That's your best bet.
Remember Roger Rabbit? He was with the thing. He says he would hit himself in the head and get the stars. And the producer of this movie would say, "I want birdies." He said, "I can do birdies. I can do birdies.
Birdies instead of stars going
Yeah,
on.
I can give you birdies." In any event, this looks good, man. Protege, versus the teacher.
Yeah.
We got ex-players on, running backs on both sides. They're running, oh my goodness. Mostert. Oh, you know how much I love Mostert.
Yeah, he's a little dinged up though. I don't know if he's going to be ready for this one.
Yes.
But Wilson will be starting.
I thought Wilson was hurt. So, but I heard
don't think Wilson's
what you're just saying about him starting, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Wilson's okay, but Mostert, he didn't even play last week.
Yeah, I think you're right about that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're right about that. But in any event, 4.9 is the bias plus score, favoring the Niners. That defense is the difference. What do you say here?
It sounds like you're making up your mind.
No, I think the defense is number one. The Dolphins' defense is ranked what?
Oh, they're low.
They're
they're middle of the road.
The defense is the difference there.
Okay.
In terms of scoring, I mean, we could look at that real quick in terms of points per game.
Yeah. Let me know what that is, because
Kansas City is in first place. Miami comes in sixth. They're scoring 25.6 points per game.
Where the Niners at? Like around 10, 11?
Yeah. How about 15 at 22.6?
Okay.
Points per game. But then, like I said, defensively is where the big, is the bigger difference. As I look here, Scooby-Doo, here we go. So San Fran, again, is in first place, allowing only 15.7 points per game. Miami is in 19th place, allowing 23.3 points per game. So the difference is the defense is the biggest difference as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, so I believe that statement will ring true in both instances. But Miami has proven to have a very diverse attack on offense and a very opportunistic, if not strong, defense in reference to points allowed. Tua threw for 299 yards and 1 touchdown with 1 interception last week. Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill each had 85 yards through the air, and the defense had 3 takeaways. Like I said, they might give up points, but they're pretty opportunistic. Also, lest we forget, head coach Mike McDaniels was the Niners OC last year, and I forget how long he was there. So he knows a thing or two about that Niners defense. Now, I could come back and say the same thing about Shanahan, knowing about Mike McDaniels and how he likes to run his offense. But there's a little bit more to it. The Niners have some issues. McCaffrey's a little bit dinged. Not bad, but he's got a knee issue. Elijah Mitchell is probably out for the season. So
maybe
now
that's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. So your run game now, depending on how healthy McCaffrey turns out to be, could be on a guy named Mason and a guy with a hyphenated name that you happen to like.
Tyrion Davis-Price.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So if it comes to that, now it may not come to that.
I'm looking for him.
It may not come to that. From everything I've heard, McCaffrey's issue is minor. Okay. So if that's the case, then they'll be fine. The defense shut out the Saints last week. but the offense kind of looked average. I think they just did enough to just win. They didn't push the envelope. Shanahan didn't open up the playbook. They just tried to get in and out of that game as quick as they could. That being said, the home team is the Niners. The stronger defense is the Niners. I'm going to go with the Niners. But this could be a really rough game for them.
They actually have Jimmy Garoppolo listed on the injury list. Knee was a full participant in practice.
Then
they got Jimmy on there.
If he's a full participant in practice, it means nothing.
Well, they have Jimmy, Christian, Elijah, Debo, and Eric Armstead all listed as
Debo's on the list every week.
Practice.
If Debo has to put some ice on his elbow, they put him on the injury list. And then Friday, he has a full practice and he's a full go on Sunday.
All right, there you go. That's how you do it. That's what Aaron Rodgers said, right? That's how you do it.
Yeah, that's how you do it.
Go.
Yep.
Seahawks at Rams. You have a division game. By a split score of 11.7 favors the Seahawks. We talked about that big ranking differential that the Seahawks have, but with all of that, the Rams just stink. So 11.7 favors.
Yeah, we can. Thank you for that. I needed that. Seattle lost their second game in a row, unfortunately, falling to the Raiders in a rock'em sock'em affair, 40-34. What a game. Wow. Geno Smith played pretty well, actually. He was 27-37, 328 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw 1 interception, but their running game struggled. Kenny Walker III, who we were both loving and saying was looking like he was going to become the front runner for Rookie of the Year, he did score 2 touchdowns, but he only actually gained 26 yards. So they moved the ball down the field through the air, got him a couple of short touchdowns, but they were never able to establish their running game. The defense got bullied by the Raiders' offensive line, and Josh Jacobs basically gutted them. That was ugly what the Raiders did to them.
Wait. That was beautiful. What are you talking about?
It was ugly for the Seahawks.
You talking about that final play?
Oh, that was a work of art. But I'm sure a lot of Seahawks fans ran to the restroom to throw up.
They probably did.
Yeah. Now the Rams, man, you know what? I didn't think I believe in Super Bowl hangovers. And I didn't think the Rams were going to be that good this year. At first I did. I remember I had them ranked pretty high in my preseason pick. But as the season began, I said, you know what? Rams are going to be hurting this year. But I didn't think it would be this bad. They look bad, man. Even the good players that they still have left on the team are playing bad. Then we go whole games without barely hearing Aaron Donald's name. Jalen Ramsey gets burnt week after week. This is crazy. They can't seem to get anything going offensively or defensively. They might as well let Bryce Perkins finish the season because Matt Stafford is all banged up. He's in and out of concussion protocol. If they plan on keeping him on their team as their quarterback, they might as well sit him and let him go. They're not going to win no games. They're not going to make it to the playoffs. I wouldn't put him back out there if I was them. This guy he might retire. Who knows?
You mentioned Aaron Donald. They had a highlight on, I think, Josh Jacobs. Aaron Donald, they hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs. Aaron Donald breaks through the line, and Josh Jacobs stiff arms him into the ground.
Oh, God.
It's like, ooh, do you know who that was? You just did that too.
And remember, Aaron Donald said he was going to retire. He said, I won a Super Bowl, I should retire. And they talked him into coming back. I know he's kicking himself now.
Super Bowl euphoria there.
Yeah.
All right, you going with the Seahawks?
Seahawks.
Chiefs at Bengals. Talk about an intriguing game, Benny.
There's another one.
Chiefs at Bengals. Look at this bias.
Man, what a week, man. We got some fascinating matchups.
bias plus score of 1. And then it's such a lonely number. I put 0.0 there just so it wouldn't be all by itself. 1 there. Favors the Chiefs. 1. As well as they're playing offensively. But as you said, you got to look at the whole picture there. And the Bengals are playing pretty good ball.
Yeah, and that makes it even more intriguing because as much as people hate to even question the Chiefs' ability to win games against whoever they play against, they showed a couple little chinks in their armor right at the time when the Bengals look like they're really pulling it together. So this game is going to be extremely interesting. The Chiefs did have some issues in the red zone during their win against the Saints, even though the defense was able to shut the Saints out. Their Saints offense is nothing to talk about. That's no big deal. But last week, the Chiefs had 4 trips inside the 20-yard line, which netted 4 field goals by Harrison Butker. They did not find the end zone every time they got into the red zone. 4 times they had to settle for field goals. Something going on there. I'm not exactly sure what it is. And if anybody can fix it, it would be Andy Reid. So I'm not going to get too excited about it, but it did happen. Joe Burrow and the Bengals look ready to make a real strong playoff run. They had a good run game without Joe Mixon. Joe Burrow is throwing the ball well. He's not getting sacked like crazy like he was last year. They're playing really tough physical defense, and they showed it against a really tough physical team in Tennessee last week. I am going to pick the Bengals in this game to treat their home fans to a victory over the Kansas City Chiefs.
Jamar Chase coming back? Yes, no?
Still questionable.
Still questionable. All right, you going with the Bengals over the Chiefs?
Yes, sir.
Chargers at Raiders. Bias plus 0.1. I don't know why I put the extra 1 in there, but all right. 1.1 bias point favors the Raiders.
Really?
Chargers.
Wow.
Yeah. These numbers, sometimes these guys,
Yeah,
LA Chargers.
Both these teams have had some issues. Raiders a little bit worse off than the Chargers, but after that big win last week, who the heck knows? Chargers have been down by 10 points or more in the first half of their last 4 games. All those 4 games were victories. That's a plus. They fell behind 24-17 in the fourth quarter to the Cardinals last week. But Justin Herbert threw a 1-yard touchdown pass to Austin Eckler with 15 seconds left in regulation after a nice drive, and then hit tight end Gerald Everett for the 2-point conversion, and they won the game 25-24. Big win for the Chargers. Bad loss for the Cardinals, but we'll talk about that later. Raiders obviously got the big win against the Seahawks last week. That's a game that usually they would lose. Instead, they rushed for a whopping 283 yards and 576 total yards. Yeah, Derek Carr was nice through the air. 576 total yards in that game. They won it in overtime on a breakaway 86-yard run by Josh Jacobs, who basically had his way with the Seattle defense. 33 carries, totaling 229 yards and 2 touchdowns. What a day. And that guy was questionable. He was almost a game time decision. That's why I say fantasy is rough, man. You don't know when to start. I didn't start him. I was lucky. I won my game last week by 4 points. If I had started him, I would have won going away. I didn't think he was going to play.
What's your net points for the year, Benny?
I don't know. I have to figure that out.
Well, the thing about this, again,
Oh, I didn't say I'm picking the Chargers.
picking the Chargers, going with the
Yeah.
Chargers over the Raiders.
Yeah, I still think they're the better team.
Average scoring margin. The Chargers basically, where they at? LA Chargers, 22nd place at minus 2.7 net points per game. Vegas is in 18th place at -1.
Yeah, I can't
So,
trust the Raider defense. I
you
just can't.
know,
I
can't
can't.
trust them, eh?
Can't do it.
Okay. All right. Going with the Chargers over the Raiders. Next up, Colts, Cowboys. This is the Sunday night game. Colts
Mm.
at Cowboys, bias plus score 18.1. Looks like the highest bias plus of the weekend. Favors the Cowboys. All right.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Steelers sacked Matt Ryan 3 times and held Jonathan Taylor to 86 yards. The Steelers defense is nowhere as good as the Dallas defense. Okay. Now, obviously, division games are usually tough, and the Cowboys game against the Giants was for sure a bit of a tough game for the Cowboys. But the defense was too strong for the Giants. The Giants depend on their running game a lot, just like the Colts do. Now, of course, they were missing 3 starters on their offensive line, but still, Cowboys defense is just too good. They can stop a run game. They know how to stop a run game. They did it to the Vikings. They did it to the Giants, and they will probably do it to the Colts too. And Zeke looked fresh. Zeke looked good. Zeke actually outrushed Pollard, and they both had good games. So the run game's going good there. I will take the Cowboys. I don't think the Colts have enough to hang with them, boys.
All right. Should be interesting. Should be interesting. And that takes care of Sunday night, which leaves Saints at Buccaneers. Division, right? Bucks always
Yeah.
struggle with the Saints. Something about the Saints give the Buccaneers hard way to go, or was that just when Drew Brees was the quarterback?
That was mostly when Drew Brees was the quarterback.
Oh, the bias plus score 7.1 favors the Buccaneers right now. Who we got quarterbacking for the Saints, man? Is it still
It's
Andy
still
Dalton?
Andy Dalton. Yeah, Dalton had a couple of nice wins against teams that they should have beat anyway, but still, they were nice enough wins to keep Jameis on the bench. I tell you the truth, I don't know what's going on in New Orleans. I don't think they know which way is up. I think they're just trying to finish out the season and see what happens. You know, they'll take their wins when they can get them, but they're struggling. The Buccaneers are struggling too, but the Buccaneers are the kind of team, they got Tom Brady. So you're thinking every week, you're thinking this could be the week that they turn it around. It's hard to say, man. Saints aren't running the ball with authority anyway, and Dalton struggles against teams with good defenses. And the Niners obviously have a good defense, so that's why the Saints weren't able to put any points on the board last week. Now, whether they put points on the board against the Buccaneers or not remains to be seen. But last week, the Bucs defense sacked Jacoby Brissett 4 times, and they picked him off once. But because the offense had so little success scoring in the second half of the game, the defense was on the field for a long time, and eventually Cleveland was able to chip away from them or chip away at them and eventually win the game in overtime. I think the Bucs defense will pull it together this week against the Saints, who don't have much going either way. I can't pick against the Buccaneers in this one. I believe they'll beat the Saints and they'll be at home. Take the Bucs.
Yeah, Saints are only allowing 18.5 points per game. They're coming in 7th defensively in terms of scoring. So,
right,
that makes sense. Well, there was a bye week for the Cardinals and the Panthers.
Oh, yeah, we didn't mention that. Yes, they are on the bye.
They are on the bye. So we just want to mention that for all of you fantasy guys. Don't put Kyler Murray on your team this week. Did you see something came up about Kyler Murray? Who was it? Somebody posted something about him and he clap back on Twitter. Anyway, Kyler's got some drama and stuff following him around nowadays.
About Call of Duty?
No, it was. I'm not sure. I hate when I bring this stuff up, and I just kind of saw it real quick go by. But it was a Twitter thing. Where somebody said something, and Tyler came back and said, don't be blasting me just so you can get ratings on your podcast. It would be like a big brother. Call me.
Yeah, right. Actually, Kyler didn't play bad last week. I didn't mention it because they're on the bye this week and don't have a game, but I thought he played pretty well. They had the lead. They lost at the end, so.
And what about Sam Darnold?
Sam Darnold with the comeback. Wait, did they win?
I think they did.
I think they did win.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I remember he hit DJ Moore late in the game. I remember that. It was a good catch.
And I think he rolled his way into the end zone for one touchdown.
Yeah. Hey, what are you going to do, man? I'm happy for the coach, Steve Wilkes, the interim coach.
Right.
I'm happy for him. I don't think he got a real chance when he was the head coach at Arizona. They fired him pretty quick.
Yeah, they did. Okay. All right. So there's your Cardinals and your Panthers. And once we wrap up the Bias Plus report, Benny, there's basically one piece of business left to do.
We got a buster.
The Bias
Sam
Plus
Darnold
of the week are those Carolina Panthers.
Sam Darnold.
With an unfavorable Bias Plus score of 4.1, a net win of plus 13 for a Bias Plus buster score of 17.1.
Good job, Carolina. Good job. Good job, Steve Wilkes.
Those Carolina Panthers got it done. Well, okay then, Benny. That wraps up the Bias Plus report, the Bias Plus buster of the week. That's all I got. You got anything?
Go Noles.
Go Noles. All right.